on the public. Let's look through some more of the changes that were made. I think the range brute was buffed to +3 attack per rage, which I find a bit ridiculous. The range brute was already really, really strong. Um, Other than that, Welder Helper is 20 armor now, which is nice. Welder Helper was one of the weakest teams out there. I do like that change a lot. Alpha Fiend buff makes sense. Alpha Fiend was a bit weak on higher covenants. The scaling just wasn't good enough. Ritual of Battle being 8 range makes it uh, pretty strong. A bit stronger than before. 6 was a bit too low for a 3-cost spells. Now it might be very solid, especially if your cost reduces. One Horn's Tome being 6 Ember to cast might be a bit too much. I think it wasn't that broken before. I'm not sure if that change was really necessary. It's really, really hard to cast now, and I probably will never invest in it. Unless I have something like Volatile Gorge or uh, another way to cheat it out. The Pyrogrow change, I really like that. It's an entirely new card basically, but it's much more appealing than the old Pyrogrow. Razor Sharp Edge, I think the old Razor Sharp Edge was decent. The 2+ attack might not make that big of a difference. Pyrosome, Husk Hermit with 5 attack is really nice. That makes a big difference now against Lightwings and Shadewings and Absolvers. Means you don't need to invest into plus attack on him that early. I think he was pretty decent already, but he was probably underpicked, underrated a little bit. But I think that change is fine. He wasn't the strongest, by far not. Shadowrat's Shell was buffed as well. The Slay effect went from 2 to 3 attack, which is nice. Shadowrat's Shell definitely one of the weaker cards as well. So now he grows a bit faster, which is solid. Um, Wielding Sapwood is a 15-30 now. I think that might it quite a bit better. Uh, Wielding Sapwood was definitely very weak before. I hardly ever picked it. Not sure how it is now. Weimodder has 40 HP, but in the game it's 35. Yeah, they still might have made some changes before putting it on the public beta, and the patch notes are still from the op uh, closed beta, possibly. I don't know what happened there. Awake with Regen 3, still a good card, maybe not as powerful anymore. Cycle of Life with Spikes 3, uh, not a big nerf, a weird nerf, because I don't think Cycle of Life was an amazing card. It was not bad. Spike of the Stygian very much appreciate this buff. It was very weak compared to the other spikes. And the 5x Frostbite definitely makes it very powerful with the double stack especially. Has a lot of potential there. Or first Hell Pact. Now it definitely takes care of a single unit very well. If you play for like 4 Ember, you can basically take out the unit. It's a lot of boss damage as well with the Zap and Frostbite. Firebox flying kill. Yeah, that's gonna be pretty powerful. Double stacked Spike of the Stygian plus Firebox is 100 frostbite right away. Still 100 is not enough to get an early flying kill, but with effigy, yeah, that might happen. Effigy was nerfed though. Um, Other than that, Siren of the Sea buff and Nameless Siren buff, gain rage 2, gain +2/+2. They are back to their old power levels. They might be a bit too strong still. We'll see. With some of the totems a bit weaker, I'm not sure. Titan's Gratitude up to 30 damage. I think that's a good buff. Titan's Gratitude was oftentimes a bit underwhelming. Uh, it wasn't terrible, so a slight buff might be the right choice. Glacial Seal, a slight nerf with +1 Ember cost, maybe even a big nerf with +1 Ember cost. It's actually a pretty big nerf in my opinion. Uh, yeah, Gifts for a Guard was nerfed. I think that's okay. I think Gifts for a Guard was very, very strong. Not in every deck, but if it was good, it was broken good. Guardian's Amulet, a slight nerf there. I'm not sure. Well, it's actually a pretty big hit. Seps 3 to down to Sep 2. I'm not sure if that was necessary, but it's a strong. It was a strong card. Yeah, yeah, I kind of agree. In most incant decks, Gifts for a God was extremely powerful. Effigy 3 cost now, so that makes it a bit harder to get the flying kills. Lodestone Totem at 3 cost, definitely a huge nerf, but I think it will still find some use. Maybe not. The the turn you play it, you can oftentimes not get that much sap out of it, but sometimes with conduit Tethys, that's not even a big deal. So we'll see. Conduit Tethys might make that nerf basically non-existent in the deck. Umbra second, yeah, maybe that works out as well. Um, and Tambra Morsel is now 5 health and gives +4. And Magma Morsel is 4 attack and gives +4. So these pure stat buffs, pure stat card morsels were buffed a little bit, which is okay. The other cards here seem to be the same. Yeah, they just despawn. When they get eaten, they no longer die. They will despawn. They will not trigger harvest or any similar ability. Perils of Production buff, pretty big in my opinion. Makes Ember Drain decks overall stronger. I think it more than makes up for the nerfs for other Ember Drain cards. Ember Drain will be more powerful after this patch. Um, Other than that, this Ember Forge is 3 capacity now instead of 4, which I think is a good change. Ember Forge was very hard to use. Void Binding is now 1 cost, which is a slight nerf. Cost on the Ember Drain cards is definitely something you care about because you can oftentimes can play them if they have a cost. Sometimes, but other times you might get around that with cards like Perils of Production. But it's very easy to get rid of the cost with cost reduction, so not sure if that's really gonna matter. Furnace tab has slightly lower rage. It's only rage 3 now. I think it was rage 4 before, but that basically doesn't matter. That's not really a nerf. Oh, Crucible Warden. Right, Crucible Warden now has 20 health as well, just like the Crucible Collector. I think that makes sense. Yeah, they could remove the rage and Furnace Tap is still broken. But I think they just wanted to keep the rage around as a theme for the Ember Drain cards. I'm not sure. Morsel Maker is now a 5/15. Not only did he get buffed, both of the morsels he summons also got buffed. So that's definitely strong. Shadow Eater got the Gorge effect doubled, which is crazy. He basically has a permanent double Gorge artifact active. So that's crazy. Shadow Eater was a bit weak before, but not that weak. I think I still liked him because he had a unique effect. And now the huge nerf Shadow Siege is now 6 capacity. Shadow Siege with 6 capacity, pretty hard to play. Uh, but oftentimes you are cheating it out anyways. But I think it can make a difference sometimes. Uh, Remnant host 0 cost, that makes sense. Remnant and also 1 health, so it's easier to kill. Remnant host uh, was definitely one of the weaker cards. Votivary 0 cost. That makes it actually quite appealing. Especially if you have something like the Extinguish trigger twice. Relic the Wexelsnuffer. Bounty Stalker only grows by 8 attack. Oh no, how will we ever survive that nerf? He's still broken. Still broken. Ah, yeah, you can now easier get rid of the Remnant host behind the Lady of the Reform. That's true. Devourer of Death is now a Wickless instead of a Tomb, which only matters for some artifact interactions. Dripfall, 1 cost, but applies dazed 1. I think overall a buff, even though it does daze your units now if you use it on them. Entombed Explosive, 1 cost and 1 health and 50 damage to the front enemy unit. Pretty strong. Molten Encasement is now 1 health and applies stealth 2 to friendly units, which is a lot more powerful than before. Especially problematic was the interaction with Burnout before, where if it died to Burnout, the stealth would immediately go away. Now it lasts for another round. Molten Encasement might be pretty powerful right now. We'll see about that. Paraffin Enforcer giving Rage 3. Yeah, with the Waxel Nuffle, very strong. Paraffin Enforcer giving Rage 3 is definitely a necessary buff. It was just a little bit too slow to scale with Paraffin Enforcer. On the other hand, if you give him Multi-Strike now, he's gonna grow the Burnout units pretty fast. Wickless Baron with +3 attack on Harvest might be very, very strong. I could easily see this guy getting up to 80, 90 attack. Wickless Tycoon had his stats buffed. I didn't like him that much before, but he definitely had his uses. Now he's a bit more powerful. Big Sludge, we've all seen this in the first run today. That guy can get crazy strong now. Now he's probably on the same level as the other rare Remnant units, which are all quite strong. Engulfed in Smoke applies stealth 2 to friendly units. Costs now 2 Ember. I think that card was overpowered before. I'm not sure it's not with 2 cost. The main problem with it is if you hold it over and double stack it, it just makes your floor immune. And 2 cost, yeah, might be a decent nerf because you would pay 2 Ember every turn for that. But we'll see. Automatic rail spike is now 10 damage per ember spent. Definitely makes it a bit more competitive compared to the other option you have, the spike drivers. Gift of Gratitude is now 40 times the ember spent in gold instead of 30, which I think makes sense. I think the Gift of Gratitude was not that great unless you had some amazing ember generation. Most Blessed Sword is now 30 times X damage, which is an insane amount of damage. It's basically a forever consumed with piercing against all enemies. But I think it should be pretty powerful with the Purge. But that might be a bit too much. Holiest Shield is only 2x damage shield now. Maybe it loses out to the sword now. And that's it for the card changes. There are some champion changes as well. We have seen the Wrathful champion gaining 2, 4, and 8 rage on revenge now. 8 rage on revenge is absolutely ridiculous. I want to see this in action at one point. I think the 4 rage was already crazy strong on the final form. Maybe a better scaling would have been 2, 4, 6, or maybe even 2, 3, 4 for the Wrathful Hornbreaker Prince. But yeah, it's 2, 4, 8 now. That definitely makes the Wrathful Hornbreaker probably the most powerful Hornbreaker Prince now. We've seen the Sentient change. It's 20, 40, 60 now. Well, we've seen some of it. Which I thought the Explosive Champion was the strongest before, but it did have a slightly weaker early game because 15 damage just wasn't that great. I think 30 was enough. I'm glad they didn't increase the 60. Would have been a bit too much. Tethys, I don't think anything was changed about her. Penumbra, Architect looks the same. Monstrous looks the same. Glutton has a different progression now. It's now +3, +1, +7, +3, and +15, +5. So the stack gain is a bit more aggressive. It's a bit hard for me to evaluate how that will play, but it's definitely an interesting change. I look forward to playing with them a bit more. Burn Bright lost 10 attack and health on the first upgrade, 5 on the second, and I think another 5 on the last. So slightly weaker overall, but it was a bit too strong, I think, especially in the early game. The accumulator is now very powerful, pretty competitive compared to the Burn Bright version. The attack gain really makes a huge difference. And finally, the Dark Calling, I'm looking forward to playing with it. Will always reform 2 units, but on 2 it will enhance them with an additional 5 attack, and on the final stage it will enhance them with an additional 15 attack. It's always a bit of a hassle to get Rector to reform your units instead of using your spells to do it, but with an additional +15 attack on them, that might be worth the hassle. A few relics were changed as well. Advanced Prototype now gives your train stewards +5/+5 on top of the damage shield and multi-strike. So that definitely makes that relic a lot more appealing. Um, Iron Drop Cage, whenever you play a spell that would ascend or descend an enemy unit, also apply daze 2. So that means even if you don't actually ascend or descend the unit, if you just try to do it, it will apply the dazed. And it will also work on flying bosses now. So that's a buff for Iron Drop Cage in my opinion, even though it only applies daze 2 now. Winged Steel now only draws one card, bringing it in line with other relics that draw cards, for example, a Septap or a Mask of Penumbra. When a certain condition is met, you will draw one card. Winged Steel might be a bit weaker than those now, because playing 3 cards, you will do that in most almost every turn, but you will only get to see the card after, so your options are slightly limited. But it's still a great relic, just not that outstanding anymore. Volatile Gorge, apparently it was the highest win percentage artifact in the game before that change, so they changed it to randomize between 0 and 4 Amber, which is a ginormous nerf. It's a ridiculously big nerf, but it might still be very, very good despite that. We will see. Um, that's it for the clanless relics. I don't think the Hellhound or Awoken relics were touched at all. I don't think the Stygian relics were touched at all. I don't think... Oh! Teeth of Gold is 3 damage. Was it 3 damage? I think it was 2 damage before, but I'm not sure. It might have been 3 damage before. And it was 2 damage. Okay, thank you. Melting Spout now gives Tomb units plus 30 health and Burnout 1. Makes it a bit easier to use. It's still not a great artifact, but it enables your tombs to tank some damage and then die to Burnout, which definitely is much more useful than making them very hard to kill. But it's still not a good relic, but better than before. And I'm not sure it deserves your dislike. The Melting Spout? Uh, as soon as you start reforming the tombs, it becomes awkward again. Is the problem with that. Because you increase the burnout. You had it do great things. Okay, I can see that. I just think it's really a good reform. A good artifact. And yeah, with reform. Votive Key, apply Endless to the first friendly unit summoned each turn, is now actually useful. Before it was pretty much non-existent, worthless relic. And this can help with imps, can help with tombs, can help with bounty stalker or something like that. It does have its application. Oftentimes it will not be great, but sometimes it will be pretty good. And for the neutral relic, I don't think any of them, from the cavern relics, I don't think any of them was changed. So these are the balance changes in a nutshell. There were a lot. The key, you think the key is too strong now? With things like imps, for example? Maybe. It's pretty good to have uh, endless on tanks as well. Okay, good night, Alex. A rare Awoken card? What do you mean? You're comparing it to uh, Unleash a Wildwood? Remnant, okay. Yeah, but that rare Remnant card is... in 95% of cases, pretty bad. But yeah, the relic might be a bit too good. Not sure. But I don't think it's that insane. Well, we'll see how it plays out. This beta will be around for a week, and after that they will uh, these changes will go live. Maybe not how they are right now. I'm pretty sure they will do some changes during the public beta, but after that they will probably most of it I will expect to go live the way it is. I'm I think the balance changes mostly are already set, but they are mostly looking for bug. But if something seems to be very far off the mark, I'm pretty sure they will change it before it goes live.